we're clear.
Okay, so people at home just got to see that. Yes, I know. You guys have any questions for Alan about what it's like to be a weatherman? How hard is it? That's a great question.
Well, sometimes it's pretty hard. And, to try to figure out the weather. Very difficult sometimes. We have a good time. Yes, sir. You have a question?
Do you always work hard when
That's a good question.
Most of the time. Every once in a while on a Friday morning, when no one's around, I take my tie off. Sometimes. But not most of the time I wear a tie. This is like my uniform.
That's where suit and tie.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it hard to know what the weather is on the screen?
Because it's not behind you.
Yeah. At first it kind of is, Do you ever do something for the first time and you're not real sure about it, and then you do it over and over and you get used to it? That's kind of how it is with doing the weather. When you get in front of the television screens and the cameras, it's a little nerve-wracking at first, but it's just like, learning how to do a cartwheel or learning how to hit a baseball or whatever. You kind of get used to it. So it's not as difficult as it used to be. Basically, you're just kind of watching yourself on television. Yes, ma'am?
You ever know?
Sure. Yeah, every once in a while I still get a little nervous. Most of the time I'm not, but sometimes I do.
How many meteorologists do you guys have? Are there several that are behind the scenes, or?
We have 4. We have 4 that are on here, and then we have 3 actually that are behind the scenes.
Do you use any other kind of stations? Is there any other weather stations, or do you formulate your own?
Yes, we make our own forecast. The data that we use is the same data set that other stations will use. That's part of the NOAA weather report system. It has all sorts of raw weather data. And then we look at the raw weather data and then make a forecast out of it.
Do you use your sister station up in the city at all, or do you do it together, or how?
No, not for forecasting or anything like that, but we do utilize the folks at Channel 9, and they help us and we help them. We have a kind of a synergy that we try and cooperate with each other. And they'll put their storm spotters out in a certain area, we'll put our storm spotters out in a certain area. We'll communicate with them back and forth. So.
When you have like a big system coming in, do you guys all get together and look at it and try to decide? I read the blog sometimes.
Sure, yeah. We communicate with each other. We send emails back and forth. We call each other on the telephone. We have communication between News 9.
I'm just talking about like with you guys and yours. Do you make your own forecast,
yes.
or do you do it yourself, like for your time period,
right.
and then and the other ones do for their time period?
Yes.
Okay.
Every person that comes on will start with what the forecaster has previously done. They'll look at the data and then make a forecast based on that. And try to stay consistent as possible, and hopefully we're all thinking the same thing. Yes, who had a question over here? Somebody have a question? Yes, ma'am. Weather balloons. You know what? When you guys walked in there, this is really unusual. When you walked in there to look around, and I was looking on the computer screen, that's what I was looking at.
Good question.
I was looking at the stuff that comes from a weather balloon, the data that comes from a weather balloon. That's pretty cool. How did you know that?
These are very smart.
To be a meteorologist.
Oh wow.
Where should she go to school to learn all this
Good
stuff?
for you. Good for you.
Last question. We'll let Alan get back to work.
How far does the
That's a very good question. Our television signal, basically, if you were at Grand Lake, right on the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line, do you know where that's at? Or do you know where Branson's at? Like in Missouri, that would be too far. You wouldn't be able to watch us in Branson. But if you are up around Grand Lake, you can still watch us. Do you know where McAllister's at? That's in the southern part of the area. You can still watch us there. Do you know where Stillwater's at? where OSU is. You kind of still watches there, just depends. So it is a kind of a circle. If you took a circle and pulse it right in the middle and drew it from Kansas to northwestern Arkansas down to McAllister to almost Stillwater, that's the coverage of our station.
About half the state. Okay, one more.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that orange in the maker look like? And it's
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's the cool thing about this. It is just a board, basically. And we hook a special computer up to the camera, and the camera thinks that it's looking at, ready for this? A rainbow. You guys know what a rainbow looks like, right? You see all the different colors? Let's pretend that you're looking at a rainbow. And in the middle of your rainbow, make sure that there's green, okay? Now, we're going to tell the camera to take away all of the colors of the rainbow except green. And that's what the camera sees, because what you may not know is that the light that our eyes process has all of those different colors of the rainbow. We can't see it. All we can see is just this light. But the camera sees all those different colors. So it takes away everything except for green. And where it sees green, in its place, it puts the weather maps. So, can you tell what color of clothing I cannot wear? Green. You're right. Now, this is kind of green, but I can't wear the green that's like that, or I would just go away.
He'd be like invisible. Wouldn't that be cool to watch if he was invisible? Thank
Questions
you,
are great. You guys are having fun?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have
Okay, do
fun.
you guys have any questions about the news? Alan talked about the weather. Every day at 5 o'clock, if you guys, when you go home tonight after your schooling is done, at 5 o'clock I'll be on the news if you watch. And I sit up there with Craig Day, and we do the 5 o'clock news. But I'm also a reporter, which means I go out every day with a photographer. His name is Oscar. And he shoots the pictures, and I interview people, and then we bring the story back and we'll put it on the news. I only cover one kind of story. I don't get to cover happy stories. I don't get to cover stories about schools. I don't cover stories about hospitals. Does anybody have any idea what type of stories I cover? Only about crime. That's all I cover are crime stories. That's why I interview police officers. Mr. Sam used to be a police officer, and I interviewed him lots and lots of times when we were doing stories. So if there's a robbery or if somebody gets their house broken into, guess who has to go cover that? Me. So a lot of times I don't have very happy stories or very fun stories, but I cover all the crime. You guys might know who this is. This is Miss Leanne Taylor.
Hi, Lori. I met everybody earlier, and I know a couple of them from a previous appearance. So it's nice
Are you
to
getting ready to do something?
About 15 minutes, so we're in good
Oh,
shape.
okay, okay. So anybody here want to, I know she wants to be a meteorologist. Does anybody here want to be a reporter? Yeah. It's really a fun job because when you go interview people, you might interview a president of the United States, which I've done. Or you might interview a famous singer, which I've done. Have you guys ever heard of Garth Brooks? I got to interview Garth Brooks a few times. Have you ever heard of President Bush? Oh, I got to interview the first President Bush. And then sometimes I've actually interviewed a killer on death row. So you never know when you're a reporter what your job is going to be every day. It's different. You meet lots of really cool people, and that's the best part about being a reporter. Yes? On death row is where people who have done really, really bad crimes, that's where they're sent, and they're in prison. So I had to go to prison and interview somebody sometimes.
Lori, can you tell them what type of education you may need to work at a news station?
Everybody who works at Channel 6 pretty much has a college degree. Everybody here has gone to college. The artists that we met, Alan the meteorologist, all the reporters, even the photographers who carry the cameras on their shoulder and they shoot videos, they all went to college. Everybody pretty much that you've met has to go to college. I went to college for 4 years in University of Missouri because I grew up in Missouri, and it was a journalism degree. Journalism was when you learn how to tell the truth, how you learn to get all the facts. We just can't make stuff up and put it on the news. When we put it on the news, we have to make sure it's the truth. So that's the kind of things. How many of you are good at writing or spelling? Oh, that makes for a good journalist. How many of you are good at computers? That makes her a good journalist. How many of you are really curious? You just like to know things. That makes the best journalist of all. Because my whole job every day, all I do is ask questions. I ask millions of questions every day of everybody I interview. Why'd you do that? How do you know that? What happened here? How did your door get broken in? How did your face get a bruise on it? I ask questions all the time. So if you're curious, you would make a really good reporter. Do any of the parents have questions about the news? So when our news comes on, it comes on at 5 and it goes off at 5:30. But we don't do news for the whole 30 minutes. What else happens during a newscast besides just the news? Yes. Weather. Weather takes up about 4 minutes. What else happens during a newscast? Commercials, and they take up about 12 minutes. So there's 16 minutes of our newscast already gone. But there's one more thing that happens in a newscast. What do you think it is? Sports. Very good. And that takes up 2 minutes. That's 18 minutes that's gone before you ever get to hear any news. So in a 30-minute newscast, we only have about 12 minutes of actual news. So that's why we've got to be really good at telling a story really short. We've got to tell people the most important stuff, and we've got to be short and move to the next story because we only have a few minutes out of 30 minutes to tell our story.